The night we saw the sky bleed fire, I knew we were already dead. They say dragons are the stuff of legends, bedtime stories told to scare children. But what tore through our village that night wasn't a myth. It was hunger, ancient, cursed, and unforgiving. I was the last to see it, and I was the one who brought it here. Let me tell you what happened before the embers turn cold and the screams fade from memory. It began quietly, as most horrors do. The wind blew strangely that morning, thick with ash and the scent of scorched wood. The sun never quite rose. It hung low behind a veil of smoke, casting our village in a dull, copper glow. We lived in Elder Grove, a forgotten village tucked deep in the cliffs and surrounded by the black pines. 74 souls, not counting livestock. We were a simple folk, woodcutters, weavers, herders. Our nearest neighbor was 2 days' ride through the mountain passes. And yet, that morning, the birds had vanished. Even the forest stood still, like it knew what was coming. I, Rurik, was a gatherer. My life spent walking the edges of cliffs, harvesting wild herbs. That day, I wandered farther than usual, drawn by something I couldn't explain. Something pulling me east, toward the Dead Hollow, a canyon we were told never to approach. As a boy, I once asked my grandfather why. He said, "That place remembers the old gods, and it hates the living." But I went anyway. The canyon was silent as a grave. Charred trees leaned over like blackened bones. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe a rare herb. Maybe a reason for the unease that plagued me. Instead, I found the cave. It yawned open beneath a crumbled cliffside, ringed in ancient symbols, scorched into stone. Something pulsed beneath my feet. I felt in my teeth. And still I stepped inside. The air was suffocating. Hot, dry, and old. Something slept there. Something massive, coiled in the darkness. But I didn't see it. Not yet. What I did see was the egg. It wasn't small. It was the size of a boar, black as obsidian, veined with glowing red cracks. It pulsed with heat. It hummed with hunger. I should have run. But I didn't. I reached out. My fingers brushed the shell, and then nothing. Blackness. When I woke, I was lying just outside the cave. The egg was gone. But deep inside that hollow, something stirred. Back in the village, things changed fast. By nightfall, the livestock began disappearing. Our strongest oxen gone without a trace. The sky was too quiet. No owls, no crickets, just the wind, whispering strange words through the trees. Then the dreams came. We all had them. Dreams of fire and teeth, of wings that blotted out the stars. Children woke screaming, their eyes bloodshot. Elders refused to sleep. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw it, a shape massive and ancient. Eyes like molten gold, horns curved like sides, a mouth filled with endless rows of teeth, each one dripping with burning pitch. The dragon, it whispered my name. 2 nights later, it came. We heard it before we saw it, a thunderous rumble that shook the earth. I ran into the village square, just in time to see the sky open. Wings the size of houses unfurled from the cliff's edge. Its body, blacker than night, slithered through the sky, not flying, floating, like smoke and shadow. It opened its mouth, and fire fell like rain. The first to die was the baker. He never saw it coming, just a flash of light, and then he was gone. A pile of ash where a man once stood. Screams erupted. The villagers scattered, but there was nowhere to run. Houses exploded into flames. The well boiled. Horses tore from their stalls, only to be snatched midair by burning claws. I saw Eliwyn, the healer, grab her infant and make for the woods, only for both to be swallowed whole in a single fiery breath. And in the midst of the carnage, it looked at me through the chaos and smoke. Its glowing eyes found mine. It remembered I was the one who touched the egg, the one who woke it. I ran through the forest, stumbling over roots and rocks, lungs burning with smoke. Behind me, I heard the screams die out one by one, until only silence remained. I collapsed beneath an ancient pine. The dragon didn't follow. It didn't need to. It had fed. Elder Grove was no more. They'll tell you the village was lost of fire, that a storm swept through and lightning struck the woods. But I know the truth. The dragon was real, and it's still out there, coiled beneath the mountains, waiting for the next fool to wander too close. I should have never touched that egg. But the worst part? I don't think it was the only one. They say you can't escape fate. For days, I wandered through the forest with nothing but smoke in my lungs and guilt in my chest. Elder Grove was gone. Every face I'd ever known burned to ash, all because I touched something I was never meant to find. But what if that dragon wasn't just hunger? What if it was a warning, and I was meant to deliver it? The forest kept me alive. Barely. I drank from brooks, chewed bark, and slept beneath roots. My mind fractured beneath the weight of what I'd seen. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the crackling fire, saw the molten gaze of the beast. Its breath still lingered on my skin. But the worst part? I wasn't alone. On the third night, I woke to whispers. Not in the trees, in my head. You woke the first, now awake the last. I shot up, heart pounding. The fire had long gone out, and the forest was silent. But the air had changed, heavier, colder. It was as if the very earth had inhaled and was waiting to exhale. A soft glow appeared between the trees. I should have run the other way, but I didn't. Curiosity or guilt, or maybe something deeper, pulled me toward it. Through thorn and brush, I followed that strange shimmer until I reached a place I'd never seen before. A stone altar, cracked and ancient, half buried in moss. Carvings covered its surface, symbols matching those I saw at the cave. And at its center, another egg, but this one wasn't glowing. It was dead gray, pulsing faintly. Cracks ran across its surface like veins. Beneath it, a carved inscription in a tongue I couldn't read, except for one word etched in red. Remember. I backed away. A twig snapped. From the darkness beyond the trees, something moved. Not the dragon. Something smaller, but no less wrong. A man stepped forward, tall, wrapped in a black cloak that seemed stitched from shadows. His eyes glowed amber. "You're the one," he said, voice like gravel soaked in oil. I didn't mean to. You were chosen, Rurik. The blood of the Keeper runs through you. You were always meant to wake the flame. He stepped closer, and I noticed something. Beneath his cloak, his skin shimmered like scaled obsidian. I didn't wake it. I gasped. It was already alive. I just touched the egg. He smiled. That's all it needed. He told me a tale older than Elder Grove. Before our forest, before the mountains themselves, the world belonged to the flame-born. Dragons not of flesh, but a spirit and fire born from the molten veins of the earth. They weren't beasts, they were gods. But when man came, they buried them. The dragons were sealed in eggs, deep within sacred places, watched by keepers, bloodlines chosen to ensure the seals remain unbroken. My family had once been one of them, but they forgot, he said. Time burned away their duty. Until you, I stared at the second egg. It's not alive, I said. He stepped beside it. Not yet. I fled. I didn't wait for more answers. I didn't want the truth. I wanted this to end. The next village I found was High Mere, built into a valley surrounded by stone towers. A bustling town, untouched by fire, unaware of the doom clawing its way toward them. I begged the guards to listen, told them everything. They laughed. Another forest drunk, one muttered, maybe too much elf fruit. But one woman listened. She wore a cloak the color of wet ash. Her name was Mara, a seer and scholar of lost lore. When I spoke the name Flameborn, her face paled. They're not myths, she whispered. She led me into her home, walls lined with scrolls, bones, and cracked dragon teeth. I told her everything. The cave, the egg, the man with eyes of gold. She listened without blinking. You didn't wake a beast, Rurik, she said. You opened a gate. That first dragon was a sentinel, a watcher bound to the seal. When you broke it, the others began to stir. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. There are more? I whispered. She nodded. 7 in total. Each seal beneath a village once part of the old kingdoms. One lies beneath High Mere. My blood froze. We have to leave. but she was already bolting the door. No, we stop it here. If the next awakens, the flame-born will rise, and the world will burn again. That night, the wind changed. High Mir's torches flickered. Horses wailed. And from beneath the cobbled streets came a rumble. People poured from their homes. The ground cracked, and from below, the second dragon erupted, not black like the first, but red as blood, its wings streaked with gold, its mouth dripping with glowing magma. The people screamed, but it didn't burn them. It stared down at the tower at the village's heart, at me, and then it spoke. You are the flame bearer, the last keeper. Come and light the pyre. Mara dragged me back into her house. The ground shook with every breath the dragon took. She pulled out a blade, ancient and glowing with blue light. There's only one way to stop this, she said. The blood of the keeper must seal the flame. She looked at me. You must die, Rurik. As the second dragon circled the village and fire danced along the rooftops, I stood frozen in Mara's hall, blade in hand, destiny pounding in my skull like war drums. Do I run and let the world burn? Or do I die to seal the flames forever? But something inside me whispered, what if it's not about stopping them? What if it's about becoming one of them?